So I wanted to talk about Giuseppe Orlando's idea of having a summit meeting bringing all the entities representing regenerative medicine together. And that seems to me a really good idea, and it's a good idea probably for two basic reasons. First of all, there's fragmentation. That's the reason that no one thinks of regenerative medicine as being central to their area of medicine. At the moment, they think of it as a thing apart, that's something someone else is doing. And whereas in fact, regenerative medicine is going to be responsible for the future of medicine. It's like the most exciting part, so people should be embracing that more, and they're not because of the fragmentation that some of it's in one society, some of it's in another, some of it's talked about by physicians, some by PhD scientists, and so on. There's just a lot of fragmentation. But the other is that a lot of people think that the whole structure of medicine will be changed by this, that the existing corporate players will be written out of the will, and stuff, and that there'll be a whole new bunch of corporations coming in and making money on regenerative medicine. And I think the reality and the thing that makes Giuseppe's idea so very important at this point in time is based on our current understanding of sort of off-the-shelf regenerative medicine replacement of organs. You could imagine within the next 10 or 15 years that might really be possible, that the current organ shortage where we can only provide organs like 10% of people and the rest basically die waiting, that would be gone and we'd have organs for everybody. But immunosuppression will still be required because they're not going to be genetically identical to the person that we're putting the organs into. And why is that? That's because for quite a while now, we're not going to know how to make like organs from your own cells and get those cells to kind of grow into a mature organ and get them to stop and not make tumors. We don't know how to do that yet. Someday we will, but until we learn that, it's really not going to be practical. You can think, well, maybe I'd accept one anyway, but then you'd need such tremendous surveillance to make sure tumors weren't forming and so on, that the cost goes way up, even if you accept the risk. So in that sense, there's the role for the same corporate partners that are there now, the mainstream corporations that are providing anti-rejection agents and so on. They are still needed for this regenerative medicine future. I think a lot of people don't recognize that. And so the third thing that's nice about it is that you can think about trying to control the narrative at a meeting. It's not a very positive thing, right? I mean, you wouldn't want to be accused yourself of trying to control the narrative, but you can imagine people might want that. And if you have a meeting of a single society, you could conceivably do that. You could set up a meeting where you're in charge, you're the boss, and you can make sure the meeting touches on the areas that you want that meeting to be considering and goes your way. Whereas with the proposal he has, that will be impossible because you're bringing multiple societies together, right? So nobody will be able to control the narrative. And doesn't that make it like way better? That becomes something you can support and will obviously move science and the human race forward and stuff, because it won't be controlled. It will be multiple vantage points coming. And Yeah, so doesn't that sound like something worth supporting?
Yeah, I totally agree with it. I think big, far-reaching, broad topics such as regenerative medicine, it needs to be something that, even though all of these fields are aware that they have an investment in it for the future, I think actually having all of those meetings together and all of these different groups talking about regenerative medicine in the same platform, in the same meeting, would kind of add that sense of personal responsibility instead of it just being, a responsibility of another group or something that we're not currently involved in. But if in a topic like this, similar to like AI in medicine, if every single specialty is going to be affected by it in the future, then I think it is important for all of these different groups to actually get together and discuss it together.
Right. So you can think of other summit meetings. Under Michael Mengel's leadership, the Canadian Society of Transplantation has been holding summit meetings where they take all of the transplant societies in Canada, including the ones that are mainly patients and things like that, have them all meet at the same time. And that's worked very well. And the other kind of summit that we're quite familiar with in 2019 is the Singularity University Canada Summit that was held in Edmonton in mid-April this year and is also in a different sort of futuristic way, bringing a lot of different entities together and a lot of forward-looking futurists from Western Canada took part in that. So one of the reasons that I espouse this meeting of Dr. Orlando so strongly, I guess from a psychological point of view, is this idea of multiple vantage points being represented is very much like what I did with the Banff classification, which is now in its 28th year. So when we started that in 1991, it seemed to me that all stakeholders should be represented, and that's what we've done. And also we're doing physician-led consensus generation. And if you read about generating consensus, they say, oh, you need to get a professional facilitator and they'll know nothing about the subject but everything about generating consensus. And then you put these post-it notes on the board and magically consensus happens. We have never done that. So we've always had physician-led consensus generation. But that needs to be a relatively humble type of leadership, that you can't come into the room thinking it's my way or the highway and I'm smarter than all the rest of these people. No, if somebody has a better idea than you have to be quiet and let that be, expressed. And also embrace the rebel spirit. If somebody who's really complaining about you, you should be excited about that. Come in, you've got good ideas, we'll give you a platform. It's nice that you have such passion in your views. We'd like to hear that. And by doing that over 28 years, we have created a circumstance where there's no competition. The Banff classification is the only game in town worldwide. So I think what Dr. Orlando is doing is similar in the sort of intellectual freedom of it. It's sort of like the mosh pit in a really good concert. Like terrible things can happen in a mosh pit. There are no rules and so on, but in a really good concert, people have a great time there. So that's kind of like what you can try to create in terms of intellectual freedom. Now let me turn the tide of this conversation a little bit and ask, why should people care what we think, right? Because they're watching this video, we're talking about something. Why should they care what our opinion is on Dr. Orlando's summit meeting? Well, let me just explain. In the AST, American Society of Transplantation, there are communities of practice And right now, it's sort of a 6-year commitment. Dr. Orlando is the chair of the Community of Practice for Regenerative Medicine Transplantation. I'm the co-chair, so when he finishes as chair, I'll be the chair, and then he'll be past chair, and then when I finish as chair, I'm sort of following him. That's the way that goes. But if you think about videos that you and I have created, you've been working with me for about a year and a half now, and we have posted many videos. I have over 1,000 YouTube videos now, and many of the videos you and I have done have critiqued a particular area of sort of technology advance. And today is really the first day that it became apparent that, like, everything we complained about subsequently changed. That does not mean we caused the change, right? Because there are some other possibilities. Let's talk first about Yuval Noah Harari, the author of this book. He's the author of Sapiens, Homo Deus, and 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. He's the best known tech author at the moment. And so what's interesting about him, the paperback version of the Homo Deus book, the first few pages of it have promos for the book. One is from the Huffington Post, and it says that he's so articulate that you almost can't begin to argue with his points of view. You might say, well, yeah, so, but that seems to have really influenced people. So, except for you and me, there's not a lot of formal criticism of his views. So now let's think of one of the things that we opposed. He said that in the future, human culture will be wrecked because right now, every plot line for every movie, novel, TV show, whatever expression of human culture you might really like, they all depend upon pivotal moments of human decision making. And that won't occur anymore because machines will be better at making decisions than human beings are. So all those high points in the plot lines will be lost and human culture will be wrecked. So it seemed to you and me like that's ridiculous. Humans are adaptable. You know, why would we just say, oh no, our culture is wrecked? You know, that's not what is going to happen. And how close are we today to the point where you would leave every decision to a machine, a decision about who to marry, what specialty to go into as a career, where to live? Do you think we're very close to leaving those pivotal decisions to machines?
I don't think so. I feel like our mistrust of machines at this point already isn't going to allow us to hand over those really important decisions.
No. So I think there's a lot of technology advance that has to occur before we would be at a point where it's just clear that every decision needs to be made by a machine. And those technology advances would allow other things to happen which will make human life much richer. If you think of today when you first woke up and you thought about, doggone it, all these things I want to do that I can never do, all these things I want to have that I can never have. I just need to accept all these limitations in my poor little life. That probably won't be the situation. If there's such technology advance that machines will be able to make every decision better than we can, before that happens, it would be possible to have multiple instances of us somehow. So, like, you're often in a situation making choices. You can't be here because you have to be there, and so on. No, there could be like multiple representations of you. Maybe some would be biological, some would be silicon-based. Send them all out into the world in the morning, and you can do everything you wanted to do on that day, and have them all come back at night and have a grand party and swap stories, and they'll all be so compatible because basically they're just all you, right? And so that would be a culture much richer than human culture today. And every story would be more exciting. And you meet somebody in the street and start talking to somebody that you know, the information you have to impart would have more positive stuff, less regret, and would be larger scale than most stories today. So that would be like way better than human culture today. So anyway, that's what we said. And the next interview that Yuval Noah Harari gave, when talking about this again, he said, "Oh no, it's all a work in progress. You really can't predict how that might turn out." So basically seeming to agree with us without mentioning us. Then another exciting thing was, we have talked a lot about this journal, the Pathologist, and so this has made laboratory medicine suddenly seem like all the blood and guts is gone. Every picture in these, it's just totally appealing, and everything like brings you in and gets your endorphins flowing in a positive way. But in April, something very interesting happened. You and I had pointed out that many of the articles about the future and artificial intelligence and laboratory medicine were overly comforting, and they were not accurate. They were like fictional worlds, right? They were saying, AI is never going to result in any job loss in laboratory medicine. It's just going to reduce the scut work, so more of the stuff you want to be doing, you'll be doing, and less of the stuff you don't like, there'll be machines to do that. It will just totally enhance everything, and humans will be in charge forever. Humans will be in charge forever. And we pointed out that that's just the sort of the interim state, that is unlikely to be the case, very, very unlikely to be the case in the long term. So then in this April issue, it's the first completely honest issue, and it's so honest it has this young woman talking about how great pathology and laboratory medicine is going to be as a career because you can work part-time. And then the next one, so that was April, and in May they have a whole big 10-page article about women in laboratory medicine, saying basically the same thing, that as the workload, as the amount of time you need to spend working gets more and more reduced, it's really an ideal job for women to integrate a satisfactory family life with medicine and so on. And that has continued, that basically since April 2019, I can't find anything that is fictional or inaccurate. What I characterized it like before is circling the wagons and saying, computers will never take your job. When I'm surrounded by computers every day, and I'm waiting for them to say, "Hey, Dr. Solez, haven't you noticed you've been making a lot of mistakes lately? Why don't you just let us do it?" And I'm sure that that's going to happen sometime. And so the strange thing was then this morning when I looked at the other things we had also critiqued, Gerd Leonhard's blog postings and videos, and Bertolin Metzgu, basically everything we had critiqued, all the things we complained about have now been corrected. Now that doesn't mean we did that. Now what are the other potential players there? Now, thinking again about Yuval Noah Harari, the guy who wrote this book, and when he goes to China, you know, you can think of the small ways in which we might be hosted if we went to China. When he goes to China, they do a gigantic musical concert in his honor, like named for him, and you know, the Yuval Noah Harari Philharmonic or whatever. Really, really high-level concert in his honor. And then he meets with the leadership of the country, not just the president, but, you know, the whole extended leadership. And it's not just once that he's done this, I think, several times. So it could be that some of the changes that he made were not due to our videos, but things that the Chinese leadership told him. He might jump pretty quickly if they tell him that they don't like something. So there are other ways to explain the changes, but the fact that some of the changes occurred within days of our communications makes it likely that at least some of the things we had some influence over. And I just find that very, very exciting. It basically means you haven't wasted this last year and a half, that we were actually doing something, sort of impactful. And the things changed, right? We're changing the trailer on the website because of the fact that a lot of our videos now, the facts that we're complaining about are not the same as the facts today, because every single thing that we have like screen captures of, those things no longer exist today, just like a year or 8 months later. So I find that really exciting, don't you? Yeah, it's really very, very cool. Okay, well, thank you for watching, and please support Dr. Orlando's summit proposal, which we both think is a very good idea.